I'm a bad motherfucker.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's live stream. Guess what? It finally happened. So it finally happened. Saudi Arabia's petrodollar exit, a global finance paradigm shift. The financial world is bracing for a significant upheaval following Saudi Arabia's decision not to renew its 50-year petrodollar deal with the United States, which expired on Sunday, June 9th. So I know I talk about the petrodollar. I don't know anyone else who ever brings it up. But it's why we have such a close relationship with Saudi Arabia. It has a lot to do with why we do a lot of the wars we do, especially Yemen. So here is a explainer. This is Marin Kafusa. I don't know, how do you say that name? Katusa. He's the author of 2014's The Colder War, How the Global Energy Trade Slipped from America's Grasp. So here's just a few minutes that's going to explain it to you better than I can. So here we go.
Americans should be.
Hang on, we go.
Americans should be very worried about what Putin can do. There is a new Cold War going on.
Hold on. I messed up. Could you go to Steph for a sec?
All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Just so you know, later on the show, in about, less than 10 minutes, we're going to have Dan Cohen on. He's going to give us an update on the events that's happening in Haiti. Also, we're going to have Ben Swan. So we tried to connect with Ben on Monday. It didn't work out. He's back today, and we'll be talking to him today about around 4:30. So it's going to be a great show. In the meantime, back to Jimmy.
Okay, here we go. Let's see if this works. Come on, my computer's going slow today.
The petrodollar is actually a device invented by Kissinger and Nixon.
The standard of living of all Americans can be traced back to here, the vast oil-rich deserts of Saudi Arabia.
In the early 70s, after the Arab crisis happened with the oil embargoes, OPEC basically tripled the price of oil to the Western world. And at that time, America realized that they were vulnerable because they were importing about 70% of all the oil they consumed.
To secure a reliable foreign source of oil, U.S. President Richard Nixon sent his Secretary of State and National Security Advisor Henry Kissinger to Saudi Arabia for a secret meeting. The result was a pact that still stands to this day.
If Saudi Arabia, which at the time was the world's largest producer of oil, would sell the oil in U.S. dollars, America would defend Saudi Arabia and make sure the House Assad would stay in power.
As a direct result of this U.S.-Saudi agreement, all other oil-producing nations also adopted the dollar as the de facto medium of exchange. Demand for it increased exponentially all over the world, and soon it had a new name: the petrodollar.
Your currency is only as strong as the demand for it, just like anything else, the supply and demand. Why the petrodollar is important? It causes a demand for the U.S. dollar. A lot of Americans don't realize that over 70% of all the $100 bills in the world are actually outside of the U.S. There's more $100 bills in Russia than there are in America.
This stockpile of U.S. dollars in countries around the world is because oil is bought and sold using the greenback.
If oil starts trading in non-petrodollars, such as gold or a basket of currencies, or if China and Russia start trading in yuan and ruble rather than U.S. dollars, that demand isn't there. And the way of life for the average American will be done. It will be worse than the Great Depression.
To date, anyone who's potentially threatened the status of the petrodollar hasn't fared well. Libyan strongman Muammar Gaddafi publicly pushed for a Pan-African gold-backed currency that he would trade for Libya's oil. he was killed during a U.S.-backed revolution in 2011. And just a few short years before, Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein advocated selling oil for euros.
At this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq.
The U.S. invaded under the guise of looking for WMDs.
Iraq did not have any weapons of mass destruction. And interestingly enough, after the Americans invaded, took over, put in their own government, the whole concept of selling oil in euros never surfaced again.
Today, many countries resent the current petrodollar system, and their leading spokesperson is none other than Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Americans should be very worried about what Putin can do. There is a new Cold War going on. It is the Colder War. That is exactly what's going on. And who's in the center of this push? Vladimir Putin. And the petrodollar is so crucial to the Colder War. The only thing holding America right now at the top is the petrodollar. And let me make it very clear. If the petrodollar dies, so does America as a superpower.
So it's dying. So it's not going to happen immediately. That was quite a stat, right? 70% of all $100 bills are outside the United States. There's more $100 bills in Russia than there are in the United States. That's so all the countries can trade with each other. They use dollars, but they're going off that. That's what BRICS is. That's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And now I've heard Turkey wants to join BRICS. There's 80 countries I've also heard wants to join BRICS. So the United States dollar as the reserve currency of the world is going away. And it's not going to happen overnight, but it's on its way. It will happen within 10 years. So it's going to happen slowly, not immediately, but Saudi Arabia already started selling gold to China, not in United States dollars. So here's some more. The crucial, by the way, this should be the headline in every newspaper. It should be the lead story on every news show. They're not even talking about it. They're not even mentioning it on CNBC. Why should they? They didn't tell you about it to begin with. They never explained to you what was actually propping up the US dollar in the first place. They never explained the petrodollar. It never came up. Just like they don't tell you the real cause of the Ukraine war, or the real cause of the Syrian war, or the real cause of the Iraq war, or the real cause of the Libyan war, or the real cause of Afghanistan occupation for 20 years. They don't tell you the real cause of anything. They're not going to tell you, when they do finally start telling you about this, they're not going to tell you the real cause of it. So the crucial decision to not renew the contract enables Saudi Arabia to sell oil and other goods to multiple currencies, including the Chinese RMB, euros, yen, and yuan, instead of exclusively in US dollars. Additionally, the potential use of digital currencies like Bitcoin. So this is going to also help Bitcoin. Yes, the latest development signifies a major shift away from the petrodollar system established in 1972, when the United States decoupled its currency from gold. I just tell you, this makes me feel better about putting my retirement money in precious metals, gold. So I didn't put all of it. I put a huge chunk in gold. Makes me feel a lot better. When the U.S. decoupled its currency from gold and is anticipated to hasten the global shift away from the U.S. dollar. I also put some in Bitcoin. Bitcoin, gold. What's the other? I did get some treasuries because they're paying right now.
I was trying to invest in bombs.
In bombs?
Bombs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In a more recent move, Saudi Arabia has announced its involvement in Project Bridge, a project which explores a multi-central bank digital currency or CBDC, platform shared among participating central banks and commercial banks. It is built on a distributed ledger technology that enable instant cross-border payment settlements and foreign exchange transactions. So right now, when a country wants to do that, we've showed you African countries complaining about this. They say, if I want to go trade with another African country, I have to take my currency, exchange it into American dollars, and then we can do business. Why do we have to stop that? That's what Muammar Gaddafi wanted to do. He wanted to get an African a gold-backed currency. That's a big, huge reason why they killed him and overthrew his country. So that's what they're talking about here. They're talking about making now an economic system to compete with the dollar, so people can trade with each other without having to, and without having to change their money into dollars, U.S.-backed dollars. What also the current system does is it gives the United States the ability to weaponize the dollar, which is why we could put sanctions on everybody, which we shouldn't be doing, because then it makes people want to go off the dollar, what this is, and then it's going to hurt the dollar and hurt our economy and hurt people here. The project has more than 26 observing members, including the South African Reserve Bank, which was greenlighted as a member this month. Project MBridge is the result of extensive collaboration starting in 2021 so this is all caused by the neocon. This is the stuff they said Trump was going to do. Trump didn't do this. Biden's doing this. This is the neocons and the Biden administration. Biden's not doing anything. He can't even wipe himself. But the people, the neocons in the Biden administration, they're doing this. So they're still doing wars that's why it was so stupid when people were like, "Oh, I'm a Biden bro now that he's pulling out of Afghanistan." You heard the Malibu Barbie Kyle Kalinske say that, like an empty-headed knucklehead, which he is. And immediately the question, when Joe Biden was pulling out of Afghanistan, the question is, what are they going to do with that money that we've been spending in Afghanistan? He never said, I'm going to take that money and invest it back. No. They had another war lined up. And I said, they've got another war lined up. And they did. It's the Ukraine war. And so by doing constant wars, by constantly saying, they're putting more sanctions on Russia right now. This is not working. In fact, this is everything they said that Donald Trump's presidency would do. That even our old friends, Saudi Arabia, turning against us, getting closer with China, getting closer with Russia, BRICS, South Africa, India. This is exactly why we shouldn't. It's exactly what's wrong with neocons. And the neocons run the Democratic Party, and they run the Republican Party. Project MBridge is a result of extensive collaboration starting in 2021 between the BIS Innovation Hub, the Bank of Thailand, the Central Bank of the United Arab Emirates, the Digital Currency Institute of the People's Bank of China, and Hong Kong Monetary Authority. In 2022, a pilot with real value transactions was conducted. Since then, the MBridge project team has been exploring whether the prototype platform could evolve to become a minimum viable product, an MVP, a stage now reached. As it enters the MVP stage, Project MBridge is now inviting private sector firms to propose new solutions and use cases that could develop the platform and showcase all its potential. So here's what Dan Whipple says. Dan Whipple says the petrodollar agreement with Saudi Arabia, which has been in existence for 50 years, was not renewed yesterday. This is a huge financial news event, and it's not even on the back pages of CNBC. The advantage the U.S. has had since 1974 was squandered via trillions of dollars in printed debt. So it's not completely unexpected. But the current administration's tantrums of seizing Russian assets and preventing access to the SWIFT banking system, which is what we did to Russia, has accelerated this inevitability into existence by transmitting our intentions to the world. Obviously, other countries are getting the message that hedging one's bets and diversifying where their assets are stored is a worthwhile approach. This is the signal Other countries will follow. It may take a decade for it to conclude, but the U.S. dollar dominance is over. And nobody else is talking about this. Nobody even on Twitter is talking about it, except this guy, Dan Whipple. And now this show's talking about it. So, anyway, Saudi Arabia, I'll just say this, that's a fine show of gratitude by the Saudis to the United States. I mean, we've helped them in starving and incendiary and burning up the Yemeni people. That's some thank you. Yeah, that's who's been helping commit the genocide in Yemen. So we're helping commit the genocide in Yemen and now Gaza. We're a great country. Look at that. That's from March 29th. Saudi MBS views on adopting the petroyuan, the petro-yuan, not petrodollar, the petro-yuan in oil trades with China. They look happy. Don't they look happy? Don't they look happy? Pity their countries don't aim to do better than the United States. They just want to become us. Here we go. Watch this. Yeah, that's Putin. There you go. There's Saudi Arabia. They're big buddies. Audacious Pundit says, if this happened under Trump, the media would be blasting that it had ended America. No doubt about it. So there you go. There's a story. Very few places are going to have. We have it here for you. I've never heard another show talk about the petrodollar. I've talked about it here. I remember when I've had people on and I bring it up and they're like, I don't know anything about the fucking petrodollar. The thing that has supporting our dollar and bidding our I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but providing support for our economy and our dollar. Nobody knows anything about it. Never even talk about it. This happened on Sunday. Today's Wednesday. Have you seen a headline about it? Have you seen it even talked about? I haven't. Okay, there it is. Now let's go to a break and we're going to bring on Dan Cohen's coming on. Okay, we'll be right back.
Hey, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there for more AM Joy and the rest of MSNBC. And click on any of the videos right here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. And you can get more videos from MSNBC for free every day with our newsletter. Just visit
Isn't it swell? The memes make themselves. They found a rabbi hole, tunnels and all. There's Jews in the walls. Isn't it bliss? The rabbinical grace soiling the mattresses. Well, let me tell you. If I were Rabbi Shmuley and diddle 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 digga digga diddle diddle dum, all day long I'd diddle little bums. If I were a Shmuley man, I'd peddle all my dildos, dreidel dildos, selling dildos with my daughter and her mum. If I were a Jewish Shmuley man, I'd be digging with a dildo in my bum. I'd wear a grotesque nose and go grab some goyim right on the nipple with a pinch. A Shabbos lap dance brace for the youngest mensch.
At this time, more than any other time, you know, revolution is necessary. It is necessary. Not only based on what has happened with the MOVE organization, you know, the babies that have been murdered, you know, MOVE adults that have been murdered, bombs being dropped on us, but past that to what is happening with all black people, so-called minority people, you know, money poor people. You know, this government, as has been said earlier, has waged war on us. But you know, something about us, particularly here in America, we don't really understand that. You know, we don't really know what war is. You know, for black people, for poor people, that people see as good, that they wasn't forced to do, that they didn't do to try to keep black people appeased, you know, and calm down so that black people wouldn't riot. A prison situation is a crystallized example of that. You can make phone calls in prison. They have movies in prison, but they don't have those things because they just want to be nice to prisoners. They have those things because they know damn well if they don't have, you know, people being able to contact their family, if they don't have, you know, facilities for people to sit there and watch movies, people are going to be frustrated, upset, and they're going to direct that frustration at them prison administrators, and they're going to have riots on their hands. You know, they're going to have people in them prisons turning them prisons out. That's why they have movies. That's why they have access to phones the way they do. And a stop to it when we don't like it, or encouraging it when it's something that's in our interest. You know, we have to call the shots. The people have to take the reins of this system and start dictating, you know, what we need, what needs to be done. And, you know, taking the initiative to do it ourselves. We can't rely on this system. I mean, you know, don't people see what's happening? Every single confrontation that MOVE people have been involved in, every single issue, you know, oppression, economic issues, every single issue facing our people, you know, is something that can be dealt with very, very simply. All people got to do is make their wishes known. All people have to do is stand up and say, listen, we're not accepting that. Unity is the key. Unity is the key to revolution. Revolution ain't nothing to be afraid of. It ain't nothing to shy away from. Revolution, contrary to what officials, you know, this system and those backing the officials running the system, you know, want people to believe that revolution means violence, you know, means blood in the street. I'm saying it can get to that point, but it don't have to be violent. You know, when people come together and take a strong stand on an issue, this government don't have no choice but to listen. Where you think they get their authority from? They don't have no power, but they do have authority to do certain things. Where you think they get it from? They get it from us, from the people. You know, they get it from us accepting the things that they do to be done to stop it. Then you have some people who want to then turn around and say, yeah, well, you know, it's the best we have, and want to make excuses. The time for excuses is over. It's over. You know, every man, woman, and child has to be involved in this revolution. Not only has to be, but is, whether you want to be or not. I mean, our babies gave their lives for this revolution on May 13th. You know, men, women, and children were murdered. And not just moved babies, you know. What about all of the young men, women, you know, children 8, 9 years old shot down on the street by cops, you know, by drug pushers? I mean, you know, where do you think that mentality comes from? It comes from this system, from the mentality of this system of getting over, you know, making a quick buck, you know. I'm saying that's where that needs to be done to stop it. Then, you know, what I want people to really, really understand is that it's past time. It is past time for poor people, black people, you know, to realize that this system has failed you. It has failed you. You can't get nothing from it. And what people got to do is withdraw our support from it and start doing for ourselves. That's what we got to do. You know, how long are people going to sit back and beg, you know, this government to do what's right when for hundreds of years all you've gotten is a slap in the face? All you've gotten is this government kicking your ass. That's all. That's all black people have ever gotten from this government.